Hey guys, just wanted to do a quick walk around on the 2021 KRX 1000. Bought this as an upgrade coming from a 2018 TRX 4, which was a great machine. Found pretty quickly that upgrade after upgrade, I was trying to get to this machine and it was just never going to happen. So I decided to go ahead and trade in the TRX 4. Start off with the KRX. When I bought this, I was pretty certain I'd already bought what I wanted. Was pretty pleased because I wasn't going to put a lot of money into it, and then realized that I myself may have a problem because immediately started looking for things that I could do to upgrade the machine. Not so much because the machine needed upgrading, but because I really enjoy the process of starting with something that is stock and just going from there and seeing what I can do just to make it more mine, I guess, really. Just something that if there's 100 of these lined up, I can pick mine out from 1,000 foot away. So just give you a quick walk around on kind of where we're at and what we did. The first thing I did was went out and bought some factory stuff. Bought the factory window, bought the factory roof, bought the factory bumpers, all the stuff that doesn't come with a bone stock KRX. Did buy the Super ATV Blackout 4500 winch, or Black Ops, excuse me. A little nervous putting it in. One thing I will tell you, if you do go with the Super ATV Black Ops winches, there is very little room between the winch and the actual front diff. So very, very close. I decided to go ahead and put it in, but it still makes me a little bit nervous that if I do get my cable spooled in a little goofy, that I might actually make contact there and put some pressure on the front diff. So always real careful when I winch in to make sure that it's spooling back and forth. So I did go with the Kawasaki front bumper. The reason I went with the Kawasaki front bumper is because I did want the front light guards. I do a lot of trail riding, and where we ride, it's not uncommon to find yourself in a position to where you might be mowing over some small saplings. It's not a great position to be in, but if you guys are out in the woods, just sometimes you find yourself in that position. Other things that I've done to this machine since I've got it, the rock blocks, fender flares. That was probably within the first couple weeks of owning the machine. Realized that while the factory setup gives you a really terrific view of your front tires, it also gives you a really terrific view of mud in your face. So, pretty good coverage. If you kind of get in here to where the seat is, you kind of lose focus there. You see that you actually are fully blocking the tires. Mirrors. Like to see what's going on behind me. Like to be able to see if I'm backing up. This thing's really high in the back end. It's higher than a cat's ass in the back end. So having mirrors to help figure out where you're going is always a plus. The mirrors I went with actually do have the LED lights. These mirrors are fantastic. These little mirrors actually put out as much light as the factory headlights. I would go a step further and say they actually put out more light than the factory headlights. So other things that I've done, went with Johnson Industries, went with their tree kicker rock slider combination. So you'll see it actually has the rock sliders underneath. These things are super solid. I don't know if I could bend them with a sledgehammer. One thing to keep in mind though is anytime that you add something that has additional weight, you're going to get additional sag. Same thing with going with the Aftermarket Roof. Went with TQR roofs. They actually made the roof, the cage, the windshield. They made that entire thing. One really cool thing about this is where I do ride trails, they recess the light bar, so I don't have to worry about that getting ripped off if I'm going through some low trees. A couple other things, let's see. To kind of counter the additional weight, while I wasn't seeing a huge amount of sag yet, I was already starting to see some sag pretty early on. So Bandit came out and they've got a stage 3 green version of their aftermarket springs. I will go ahead and tell you, these things are tough. After about 50 or 60 miles on them, expecting them to show some sag, I was going to do my final adjustments after I got some miles on them. Quickly realized that they didn't sag at all. So I was running about 19 inches in the rear end and about 18 in the front end on the factory recommended settings from them. Essentially, there's no preload on these right now. There's enough pressure on those springs to keep them from rattling. That's about it. And that got me back to about 16 and a half, almost 17 inches of clearance. So super tough springs. If you're looking for height, they will absolutely give it to you. You may have noticed already, those aren't the factory tires. Those are System 3 XTR 370s. Those are in a 35 inch. For me personally, I like the added security of being able to climb over big rocks. I like to climb over big logs across a trail. They make me feel very secure when I'm out. I like them. And I'll probably my way all the way through this video, so I apologize. The one thing I haven't mentioned yet is this vinyl wrap. Call it a wrap, call it a skin. This actually comes from Murray Power Sports Adventures in Vinyl. So Tim and Ginger Murray out of Illinois produce these. What's great about these guys is you can shoot them an idea and they'll bring it to life for you, shoot you back some graphics to look at, see how you feel about it. If you like them, they'll print them and ship them. They go on much like decals. I was pretty concerned early on about doing a vinyl wrap because I've never done one. I've seen some on TV, the way they do cars, and they'll pull out a full 15-foot long sheet, and you got to have a team of guys to handle that and the heat and the guns. These are actually all pre-cut, so they go on much closer to the way a decal goes on than a vinyl wrap, but ultimately just looks terrific. Airbox covers, actually ordered those off eBay. Not sure who the vendor was. I don't know if they were repackaged and resold or someone else packaged these and sold them on eBay. No, there's a couple guys out there that make these, and the ones that they make look absolutely terrific. And these look like, if they aren't the exact same, they're knockoffs. So if for some reason I bought a set of knockoffs and somebody's feelings are hurt, I apologize. I just found them on eBay and bought them. Tusk, the cargo box. So I did go with the Tusk cargo box. That is a Tusk rear bumper. Both those came from Rocky Mountain ATV. I didn't go with the light guards. Didn't want the light guards on the rear end, so I didn't get the Kawasaki version of the bumper. I figure if I take a pretty good hit to the rear end, somebody coming down a trail and forgets to hit their brakes, really they're going to be coming in much lower than those light guards are. The light guards on these things, you'd have to be hit by a semi to need them, unless you do a lot of backing up in the woods. We typically go forward. The cooler actually is a Grizzly brand cooler that's remanufactured as a Kenai, I believe they call it, Kenai. Essentially it's their less expensive version of their Grizzly. I've had better coolers, but the size was right. I could still see out the back window, and the color was right. Go Cowie. EMP, did buy the hitch receiver from EMP, powder coated black, and just because I had bolts long enough, I also kept the Kawasaki little pull bar at the bottom there, so I just kind of stacked those up and ran the bolts through and kept that as well. EMP's got a little pull bar here, but if you're using a strap, a nylon strap, a lot of sharp edges, I feel like that would probably maybe cut a nylon strap in half if you were putting much pressure on it. So wanted to keep the Cowie. Trying to think anything else we've done here. We've done so much. As far as the machine itself, performance wise, did go with the right coast off-road weights. Did that almost immediately. Matter of fact, I would say I actually ordered a lot of stuff in the very beginning, waiting for stuff to come in. The timing was just right. I got my off-road, or excuse me, my right coast off-road weights the same week I ordered them. Very lucky. Huge improvement. The way these things tend to go a little bit slow when you punch it, it takes all that hesitation out. You get immediate power. So big kudos to those guys. Next thing I did was, as far as performance wise, went ahead, ordered the Empire dual exhaust. You're not going to sneak through anybody's back 40 with this exhaust on here. If you're on someone's property trying to get to another trail, they will know you're there, without a doubt. So if you don't mind it being a little bit louder, it's actually a really nice sound, but you have to be someone that doesn't mind a little bit extra noise, because it does make some noise. The other thing I did was I sent off the ECU. I bought this in Kentucky, but my understanding is about 1/3 of all KRXs actually do have the California ECU. My Kentucky KRX, California ECU, V-Force John, he's already dialed in the tunes for the Californias, so I got that back. Another huge improvement. One thing that's very interesting, everybody asked me, you know, how bad did it slow it down when you went to 35s? You know, how awful was it? I had the 35s before I had it tuned, and I will say the clutch weights kept this thing moving perfectly. Very little, if any, performance loss going to 35s just by having the right clutch weights in there. When I put the ECU on there, this machine has no problem lighten up those 35s. It will absolutely break loose those 35s. It's got plenty of power for it. While these things don't have a whole lot of top speed, they got a lot of low end torque, and no problem with the 35s. So I'll leave that at that. So again, just want to do a quick walk around, let everybody kind of see. One other thing that's inside that maybe you haven't seen yet, I'm still not sold on this yet. So Boss makes a marine version of a 7-inch double din touchscreen radio that's supposed to be waterproof. I would be lying if I said this thing is waterproof. On a couple occasions when we've had several days of really hard rain, high humidity, I've come out and that screen has had moisture underneath it. It always dried back out, and now if it's going to rain, I do lay a plastic bag over top of it just to make sure it doesn't get wet. But it's not perfect, but it is really cool. It has Apple Play, Android Play, your Google Maps or Waze or whatever map system that you have actually shows up on the screen when you're plugged into your phone. So it works out pretty well. Hardly waterproof. One other thing is with the TQR cages, it does come ready to install the Click 6 harnesses, and the harness bars that normally you have to drill holes into your plastic back here, you don't have to drill those holes. It will actually come with the mounts for that underneath the center crossbar, so that worked out well too. Probably one of my favorite upgrades is my gear shifter. That actually is a foregrip from a AR-15. Got into a box of stuff I wasn't using. I filled it with epoxy resin, a little bit of fiberglass, drilled out the hole in the center where I wanted it. Very comfortable gear shift, and kind of unique. It's homemade, but again, I like to make things mine. I like to be just a little bit different than everybody else. I don't know why, it's just who I am. So again, like I say, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Again, I don't do these videos, so I apologize for a probably poor audio quality, probably poor video quality, probably a lot of shaking, but that's it, guys. This is my baby. So take care and happy riding.